The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Rapid Sales Accelerator. If you're ready to skyrocket your sales by 30% or more in just 90 days, then you need to claim your free training right now. You'll learn 4 words that will compel your prospects to trust you like they were children within the first 3 to 5 minutes of any conversation across any platform and any medium. You'll learn how to give your prospects objection amnesia, to crush objections like, I need to talk to my spouse, or I need more time to think it over, or it's too expensive. And finally, you'll get a free recorded audio training that will install unbelievable attitudes for success and wipe out any limiting beliefs. So if you'd like to claim your free training now, go to www.paulrossbook.com. Do it before your competition does it now. Welcome to the Influencer's Edge. This is the place where you come to get the latest breakthroughs, cutting-edge insights, tools, and techniques to leapfrog over the pack in sales, persuasion, and influence. Be sure you visit our website at www.theinfluencersedge.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now sit back, tune in, and enjoy today's episode. Sorry, John. All right, welcome to the Influencer's Edge. Today's guest, I've had the honor of being on his show, Sales Pop. Welcome, John Golden. Now, John, you have so many accomplishments to your name. We're going to have to speed through your interview. Not your interview, but your bio. The interview, we're going to take our time. So John is a globally acknowledged sales and marketing, speaker and strategist who's conducted over 1,500 video interviews of thought leaders for Sales Pop. I know that because I was on his show. And Sales Pop is rated in the top 2% of the most popular shows and we have a specific number here, ladies and gentlemen, 3,320,580 podcasts. Are there really that many, John?
Oh, there are. And there's more coming and there's more going all the time. So it's a dynamic figure.
Former CEO of Huthwaite, a global sales consulting organization, and Omega Performance, John is currently the Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer at Pipeliner CRM. We'll talk about what Pipeliner does. Here's the most interesting thing for me in your bio. You're the Amazon bestselling author of Winning the Battle for Sales, Lessons on Closing Every Deal from the World's Greatest Military Victories. So I have to pause you and say, I am a huge fan of military history. I actually my father was a combat medic in World War II fighting the Nazis. But I have a book on my bookshelf called From the Jaws of Victory about famous incompetent generals and commanders who were about to win and they snatched defeat from the jaws of victory and screwed it up. What is your interest in military history and here's the more interesting question, at least for me, how did you map that over to sales?
Yeah, so my interest, I studied history actually in college back in Dublin, Ireland, where I grew up. I went to Trinity. And also if anybody's aware of Irish history, it has quite a lot of military, and rebellions and stuff like that. So I've always been interested in that. And so fast forward, when I was running Huthwaite, I did this blog post, and this is where the book comes from. It came from a blog post that I did on the George Washington's crossing the Delaware. And I liken that to sometimes when you're in a slump in sales, like in any aspect of your life, sometimes you just need that. You just need that win, whatever that win looks like. You just need to get. It's like if you're struggling to score goals in soccer, football, and sometimes you just needed to go in off your knee just to break that, to break the psychological barrier. And the same thing with George Washington, like going across and they defeated the Hessians or whatever, and turned the whole course of the War of Independence around, because a lot of the troops were on the verge of leaving and going home because their contracts were up, etc., and things weren't going well. So I wrote that blog post, and then we talked to McGraw Hill, who were interested in it, and they decided that they were interested in turning it into a full book. So we went off and researched a lot of different battles, and then hooked. And the reason why is that the book is based around the concept of just association, right? So
What
that
does
when
that
you're
mean?
it means that when you're in a situation, instead of like trying to remember, oh, what's that sales lesson, what's that thing that I was taught to do in this situation, to be like, oh, hang on a second, I'm in the negotiation phase, or I'm trying to handle, I'm trying to align resources internally. I remember, oh, that was the charge of the light brigade. I remember that, right? I remember the story, and then I remember the lesson that flowed from it. And that's the idea, is to give you these little anecdotes of battles. Some of the connections to the sales lessons are a bit of a stretch, but that's okay, because it's
No,
more
that's
about,
what I want to hear.
yeah.
John, I want to hear about the stretch because it's in the stretch, it's in the making those new connections that we break the paradigm and we come up with things that our clients can make breakthroughs where otherwise they can't. So, what was your thought process? How did you go about making this correlation? And more importantly, how did you map it over? Did you do it just in your imagination, or how? I want to know how you thought this
Yeah, we
through.
went through interesting battles and significant things. And then we also went, at the same time, we also went through the methodology around selling, whether it's been selling and that, and we looked at how we could map them together. So yeah, it was a kind of cross mapping exercise. And it really, and it's amazing how many lessons you can get from small instances, right? It's like, the history always revolves on, people think they're big dramatic events, which there are, but they often turns on some small, seemingly insignificant event.
Can you
Like,
give us an example of that?
yeah, I mean, I think Gettysburg, if anyone's ever been to Gettysburg, that Gettysburg is a great example of where, on this first or second day of the battle, I think, when before the Union forces were even there in full strength, there was a moment where the Confederacy could have captured some high ground. And it was in the communication. They was communicated in a very southern way. If it cares you, please, to take the high ground. That was the order that was issued. The guy who received it took it as a quest, as an offer, not as an
Right.
order, but as a suggestion, if you please. And he decided not to. And long story short, had they taken that hill, they probably would have been able to take it. Probably would have changed the course of the war. Probably would have ended up with a peace deal between the two sides, and perhaps a divided country. But they didn't. And then the Gettysburg battle turned out how it did, and that was the height of the power of the South. And then everything went went south for them afterwards, literally. um but it's just those things. And that's why I think, when you are in a situation in business, sometimes we're looking at these grand, gestures and stuff, but sometimes it's just in the small little details is where the magic really happens, if you pay attention to it.
I really like that. The communication was received by the Southern commander not as an order, but an option,
Hmm.
a suggestion. And I
Yeah.
could see, as a leader, if you talk about sales leadership, you really have to make sure that it is not communicated as an option. But on the other hand, you don't have the chain of obedience that you do in the military. So I could see how it would be a slightly more subtle mapping over. But I get it. That's a really excellent point. I see that lesson arising. The other thing I would think of, and I only know this, and I want to run this by you, is my father, who is a combat veteran. He fought the Nazis in World War II. I have all his. He was a medic. I have all his medals.
Uh,
He said to me that an army runs on beans and bullets. That without logistics, you can't get the battle done. Without that preparation. So do you think that's a good mapping over, that if you're not properly prepared and you don't have sort of the logistics of the sales set up, you're going to get screwed, to use the word?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think today more than ever, because today, if you talk about the customer experience or the customer journey, or the buying journey, however you'd like to put it, is we interact with a brand, a company, a service provider in multiple different ways, right? We interact with them digitally early on. Maybe we interact through a salesperson. Then maybe if we decide to move ahead, maybe we get moved over into implementation, all of that. But the point is that nowadays, if your experience and your interaction with a company or with a brand is not consistent across all these touch points, then then you're only as good as your weakest link. And I think that's the point. There is,
Uh,
it's great, you can go charging forward, maybe take some, you know take some territory, and then we run out of bullets and look behind you and realize you'd forgotten the supply line, and so now you have to retreat, and you're in a worse situation. But I think that's it. I think you have to look across, you have to look at the customer journey as holistically. Just like if you were preparing for battle, you'd have to look at it holistically, and how am I going to resupply? What happens if we're successful and we need to move forward? Can we move forward quickly enough? If we're not, can we do this? But yeah, I think that's a perfect analogy.
I have another question for you. Well, I have a lot of questions for you, John, but this is something I always ask people who have been at it for a long time in their industry. You've been at this how long?
um I don't know, 20, 25, 30 years maybe.
All right, 25, 30 years is a long time for someone to continually innovate and to be passionate, what to say, interested in what they do, but you still are. So I want to know what is behind that. I'm not asking you how did you get started or all these other boring, I'll just say it, batshit boring questions. This is not a family show. Uh, how have you stayed? Excuse me, I am going to sneeze, so we're going to pause and put it on mute. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I had a huge sneezing fit. John, I wanted to ask you, you've been at this 25, 30 years. What has kept you innovating, and what's kept you passionate about this? Because a lot of people after 25 years go, I think I'll retire or do something else. Why?
Yeah, it's a good question, but I think it's rooted mainly in. So I came. Let me take a step back for a moment. So I came to the States about 26 years ago in during the dot-com era. So in the mid late 90s, I landed in Silicon Valley, and I was there for the dot-com, for the explosion and implosion. And I think what's kept me interested is the nature of change, right? I mean, the dot-com, that was a really exciting period, led to some change. Then we even went through the financial crisis and stuff. Again, you need to adapt and change to it. Then with COVID, now with AI, I think AI is very exciting and what's happening
Yes.
there. And I think that's what keeps you engaged. If you're interested in how things are evolving, and you look on them, what I like to look on them is the impact side, right? I mean, the technology side is great. Some people love to get down into the weeds of the technology. I like to kind of understand on a certain level how it works and that kind of thing. But I'm more interested in the implications of it, and how it's going to impact and what it's going to change. And I think that's what keeps me engaged, is always kind of, one eye on the future, and like what do all these things mean, and how do we evolve, and how do we get, and especially I think for technology, and I think that's the exciting thing about AI, is maybe we're looking at almost closing the loop, if you like, where I could see somewhere down the road is where we can, you can certainly type your prompts, but you can speak your prompts to your software package and tell it what you want it to do, and never have to kind of learn
It's
again,
very
the
close.
the clicks and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that's fascinating, because it's a fascinating challenge for software developers and AI developers and analysts and all that. But it's also a great challenge for organizations in terms of like, how do you implement this? How do you use this? And how do you get the benefits of it without losing, the human elements and all of that too? So that's what keeps me excited. The rapid pace of change, Paul, I think, if you're interested at all in kind of how things evolve and the impacts they have, then I think it's an exciting time.
A lot of people are put off or even terrified by it. But my philosophy is you either ride the wave or the wave is going to drown you. I think, and this is based on what my business partner and my other business, we have an AI that we're building out and actually beta testing. I asked them about that, where the AI will actually do all the stuff. It won't just teach you how to create the clicks in the funnel. It'll just do it and run it.
Yeah.
He said that's 6 months away. That's it. It's six
Yeah.
months away. It's going to make all the current marketing systems obsolete or obsolescent. So
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
I
No, that's funny because a couple of months ago, people would have said, "Oh, that's 2 years away." Now it's, and then like a few weeks ago, they would have said a year away. Now 6. No, I totally believe it. I believe it because I think it makes sense. It makes sense, and if it makes sense, then somebody's going to crack that code.
I agree. Let's dive a little bit more in. Um, Build your brand of gold. 6 critical impressions. So let's see. Let me dive a little bit further. How does networking contribute to personal branding? And what are some practical tips for cultivating meaningful connections and leveraging networking opportunities? Before you answer that, John, everyone has a different definition of networking. I've been to these stupid ass things where people wear their name tags and immediately you get, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? So I hope that's not what you mean by networking. Maybe it is. What do you specifically mean by networking?
I mean networking in its broadest, most holistic sense, and that is like, building your network out, whether it's digitally, whether it's in person, whatever. But it's learning how to connect with people in the right way, and how to expand your network of influence, and also the people you can call upon. And I think that's something that you have to approach deliberately, I think intentionally, because we're in this world now, Paul, as you know, where everybody measures things on volume, right? And they're like, oh, yeah, I need to. So you're on LinkedIn. I need to have 10 gazillion connections and
Yes.
5 gazillion followers. And you think, yeah, that's not really network. That's not networking. That's, I don't know what that is, but it's certainly not networking. I think you need to take a more deliberate approach and sort of, and then not look at networking as this passive, passive exercise. It's like people will go, oh yeah, like I'm going to build up my digital network, so I'll go on LinkedIn and I'll connect with a bunch of people, right? And you think, well, hang on a second, why don't you take a different approach? Why don't you look at the type of people that you think that
Yes.
fit your profile, who you should be connecting with? Now, then look at their profile. Okay, now look, maybe they have shared an article, maybe they reposted a
Yes.
video, maybe they wrote a blog point. Now, this is the most important thing. Do not do this. Do not go onto their post or their video or whatever they shared and go, great post, because when you do that, I know for sure you have not read, listened to,
Correct.
watched whatever I just posted. So go on, read the article, watch the video, whatever, then make a comment, build upon it, make a comment to the person who wrote it, and show that you actually took an interest and add to the conversation. And therefore, if you start to develop habits like that, then you'd be surprised how your network grows, because it's reciprocity at the end of the day.
Yes.
That's what works. And right now, a lot of people are expecting, in return for you connecting, for me connecting with you, your reward is that I get to spam you with
Yes.
sales offers. No, that's
I
not
get it.
that's not networking. That's just
I
spamming me.
get it all the time. So on the one hand, what's not networking is spam. On the other
Yes.
hand, what's not networking is just putting no effort into obviously diving into the person's thought process, their material, and thoughtfully really sitting and thinking, how can I contribute to this?
Yeah.
And I think what's inside of that is determination and preparation, which again links back to good military strategists, good military
Yeah.
tacticians,
Yeah.
preparing the battlefield. You have
And
to
where
prep the battlefield.
and you have finite resources, just like every all of us. we have a finite resource in ourselves and our attention and the time we have. So again, just like you said, just like in military environments, you have to look at your resources and you have to look at where am I going to get the best return, from this. And I think that's an important thing too, is because if you're just like scattergun tactics and just firing all over the place, yeah, you'll run out of ammunition very quickly and you won't have much success. So I think you've got to pick and choose where you're going to
Yes.
invest your
Let's
time and effort.
let's dive into that process of, I'm going to use the term because we're talking about military terms. Let's talk about picking the target. A lot of this seems to me there has to be a vetting process because, like you said, we have limited attention, limited focus, and I will just say limited willingness to do the work. No one who I know some very disciplined people, have the willingness to do that work consistently every day. They get distracted, their motivation. I want your input on this because you're an extraordinarily successful individual. My own personal observation of me and other people who I've worked with and worked for is that willingness to put in the work is not something that's going to be even every day. There are going to be some days where you just have to freaking force yourself to do it. Have you
Yeah.
found that to be the case?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'll take it a step back even further, Paul. I mean, I think there are, in my experience, you can teach people most things, but what you can't teach people is hard work. It's either innate in you and you've learned it over the years or whatever. But it's hard. You can't sit somebody down who doesn't have a work ethic or doesn't know how to work hard or can't force them to work hard. You can't teach them that skill. So I think first of all, you have to ask yourself, what is your attitude to work and working hard? And then I think the second thing, yeah, absolutely. Not every day is going to be a great. Anybody who comes on and tells you that they have a morning routine that sets them up every day and every day they're pumped up to 150% and all of that kind of stuff is, I don't believe that. I don't believe that there's anybody who can be, up
You
every
don't believe
day.
in morning routines? Because
No,
I
no, no. I believe in morning routines. I don't believe that everybody can be 100% on every
no,
day. I
no.
think that's and I think sometimes that's the impression some people give. And I think, we have to be realistic. I think there are on those days. I kind of go back to what we said, like about the George Washington example earlier. There are some times when you just have to dig deep and do it when you don't want to do it, when you've no interest in doing it, or you have to say, this is a better use of my time right now. I'm going to do this and then I'm going to come back to that later, but I'm not just going to ignore it. But I agree with you. I think there are days when I have to dig things out where I have to say, like, when I'm looking at a to-do list and there's something on it that I've noticed that I keep managing to skirt around, that sometimes I have to like force myself and say, okay. And sometimes it's harder than sometimes it's easier than other times, but I think that's where discipline comes in. But I think also recognizing your limitations too, because maybe that's
Yes,
a point where you need to get up and just leave your desk and you need to go for a walk. Or
yes,
if you're really not doing, you just say, okay, I'm not going to do this today, but you know what? I'm going to put it on top of the list for first thing tomorrow. I'm going to come at it
yes.
fresh and it's going to be my priority.
There's a book I read, you might find it interesting, called Willpower Doesn't Work. I don't know if you know this book or not, but you'll find it personally quite useful. And they talk about decision fatigue and will fatigue. I personally think that AI, John, is going to do this work for us. Sooner or later, it will be able to analyze the post, read it, and come up with intelligent commentaries. So we don't have,
Right.
look, I'm a lazy ass or a more efficient. You can either call me efficient or you can call me lazy because I'm somewhere in between the two. If I can have a program and it really comes off just as efficiently as I do, then more power to that way of doing things. The
Yeah,
only other
yeah.
the only other thing I've found is I have a personal trainer who keeps me extraordinarily accountable, and I've been able to map over that mental toughness and accountability into my business, which has helped me
Yeah.
tremendously.
And actually, that's a really really good point that you just raised there. Is, I mean, you have a personal trainer. I do martial arts, so I have a master who keeps me on track. But when it comes to businesses, we tend to just kind of go out and wing it on our own a lot of the time, and and I think I think even to this day, people don't realize that there are mentors and coaches available to
Yes.
you out there, and because they're like, "Well, what would I do with?" And you're thinking it's just like you would do in your hobbies. I mean, it's like we pay for our hobbies, and lots of people do. Maybe somebody just took up pickleball. I bet you they're down with the coach learning their pickleball stuff, and you never you always think, yeah, that's reasonable. I'd pay for somebody to coach me. But paying somebody or finding somebody to help coach you in the thing that puts bread on the table, we tend to overlook. We go, well, we just wing that one. The most important thing probably in your life, we're just going to wing it. So I think that mentoring and coaching are really important, and that people should consider. And don't wait for your company to do something for you, because that's the other thing,
Correct.
Paul, is if you're sitting in your company and say, well, they never give me any training, they never do anything, you're going, yeah, because something, you're just one person. They don't care about you as much as you care about you. So, and that's right. You should care enough about yourself to invest in yourself. Don't wait for other people.
I agree. I've invested. Well, some of them have been an expense because they were lousy ass coaches, but I've invested a good amount of money in finding coaches. My coach, I have a coach for every dollar I pay him, he makes me five or six.
Hmm.
He's really wonderful. And then I had another mentor who sat me down and said, look, a mentor, a really great mentor, is someone who's paid your idiot tax. They made the mistakes that you don't want to spend years learning and recovering from, which I think is really, really cool. Before we leave, tell me a little. I'm looking behind you and seeing Pipeliner CRM. I know what a CRM is, but there's lots of them. And in fact, there's a site called Go High Level, which offers a CRM as part of its integration suite of tools. So, what makes Pipeliner stand out? What is it about Pipeliner that makes it a superior solution?
Yeah, so there's a number of things. There's a number of things, Paul. Number one is our product is really built for sales teams, right? So that's one of the most important things, is that you need to have a sales team. So it's not a CRM for onesie twosies or wherever. There's lots of CRMs like that. So we're really for mid-size, large, and enterprise organizations, and then you can scale our product by capability. Not It doesn't scale by complexity, it scales by capability.
I love that. Whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, pause, pause,
Yes.
pause. Say that again.
We
It's
scale by capability and not complexity,
the
because
two are not necessarily the same at all. Brilliant insight.
yeah, because at the end of the day, unfortunately, when people build out software products, the more features and the more complexity they add to it, they don't spend the same amount of time making the front end as intuitive as possible, and that's what we like to do. We say, like, there's so much power under the hood, but we use visualization and drag and drop, and we make it very, very easy to interact with the system. And when you have people make it easy to interact with the system, then the salespeople use it. Then they put their data in. We have AI tools in there that provide them with intelligence. So there's a symbiotic two-way relationship. Not it. This isn't your old command and control system from management. This
I
is
remember command and
yeah.
control. I got a little more snow on the roof than you do. I remember command and control.
Yeah, and so this is where it brings benefit to the salespeople themselves, and plus we've made the administration part of it also drag and drop, visual, easy, so that people working in the business. So if I'm a sales leader, sales manager, I can administer the CRM in a couple of hours. I don't need to hire expensive Salesforce admins and all of that kind of thing.
The
And
Salesforce,
yeah, yeah. And
they're in
so
trouble.
it's very easy to learn. It's very fast to adopt. It's got we're really trying to lead the field on AI for sales in CRM. So we're incorporating a lot of AI into it. We have an automation engine, so you can automate lots of rote and routine tasks, and really deep and comprehensive business analytics. So if you really want to get a deep deep visibility into your revenue, into your
Yeah.
forecasting, your pipeline management, and you want a system that salespeople can actually enjoy working in, and that helps them and supports them and provides them with insights and guidance, etc., then this is the tool for you.
I really like, it sounds to me like you are almost the Apple of of CRMs. Apple does its very best, at least initially, to make the Mac. It made one of the things that made it so competitive, and almost it is a cult. I'm a member of the Mac cult. I would never use a PC or Windows. It's so user friendly. Although one of the things I've found is when an app is updated to make it more powerful, it's always more difficult to use.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Almost certainly, I want to get your observation because you're more into this than I am. Why is that? Can you tell us? I know yours doesn't do that, but first, has this been your experience when you use your personal apps on your phone or Skype or whatever?
Yeah,
That
yeah, it was funny. We used to use Skype a number of years ago, and I remember the Skype went through an update, and it was one of their biggest updates in years, I think. And so we all switched over to the new Skype. And after about 2 or 3 days on the new Skype, I was searching on the internet to find the old info so that I could remove the new one and put the old one back. But to your
yeah.
point, Paul, it's like sometimes you go, oh my goodness, can you stop trying to improve things? I think what it is I think sometimes developers, get very excited about the capabilities they can bring and how they can do it and all of this. But some of these companies, they skimp on the user impact, right? And they
Yeah.
skimp on how is this going to be perceived? How do you roll it out? How do you make it? How do you bridge that gap or whatever? Because I think they just get so excited. We're bringing out a new version, and there's always time crunch, especially when they do these. Like we do monthly updates, so we're not really running up. I think a lot of these ones do 6 months or a year, or even longer. Say sometimes, and they get so excited, they pack so much into this big release, and like I said, the thing that always gets suffers at the end of the day is the user acceptance, testing and all of that. And it's just, and then there's the kind of attitude, oh, well, let's get it out and we can fix it later, ignoring the fact that, if you're going to announce something like in your big update and it's a bear, it's hard to get people back after that
That's
and you
to
burn them.
close the loop back to the analogy of the military. That's like sending out defective hardware, defective weaponry, and thinking, after we won the battle, we'll
Yeah, we'll fix it.
get back and fix it. John, I want to
Exactly.
thank you for being a wonderful guest. I know that my audience will want to continue the conversation with you. How do they do that?
Yeah, just reach out to me on LinkedIn, John Golden. I'm on probably the easiest thing. Just reach out to connect with me on LinkedIn, and yeah, that's the easiest way.
We'll have my producer Tracy put that in the show notes. John, stay with me after we're officially over because I want to chat with you a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest, John Golden, has been golden today. I had to work that in. We'll see you next time on The Influencer's Edge. Bye now. The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Rapid Sales Accelerator. If you're ready to skyrocket your sales by 30% or more in just 90 days, then you need to claim your free training right now. You'll learn 4 words that will compel your prospects to trust you like they were children within the first 3 to 5 minutes of any conversation across any platform and any medium. You'll learn how to give your prospects objection amnesia, to crush objections like, I need to talk to my spouse, or I need more time to think it over, or it's too expensive. And finally, you'll get a free recorded audio training that will install unbelievable attitudes for success and wipe out any limiting beliefs. So if you'd like to claim your free training now, go to www.paulrossbook.com. Do it before your competition does it now. Thank you for tuning in to the Influencer's Edge, where you get the latest breakthroughs, cutting-edge insights, tools, and techniques so you can leapfrog over the pack in sales, influence, and persuasion. Remember to visit our website at www.theinfluencersedge.com to enjoy even more great episodes like this one. We look forward to seeing you again on the Influencer's Edge Show.